Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about the One Piece card game. Set 4 card reveals are finally in full swing. I have been waiting so long to talk about a lot of the cards we got a week or two ago, as well as all of the new ones. Of course, I'm waiting a little less long for those, but we have got some really exciting stuff to talk about. Before I get started with that, if you're interested in competitive focused One Piece TCG content, you can check out my Patreon linked in the description. Of course, help support the channel, and any support is much appreciated. And of course, you can subscribe to the channel to be notified whenever I do upload a video about One Piece or about Battle Spirit Saga, or indeed about Lorcana and stuff like that. The rules got revealed today, so I'm going to take some time to digest them and give my thoughts on exactly what I think about the game. But with all that being said, let's jump right in to a leader. In fact, we got 4. We got 4 of the 6 leaders. So as a reminder, this set has 6 leaders rather than 8, as all the previous sets had, and they are confirmed to all be 2-color leaders. And that, I think, means that we may finally be entering an era in this game where we are just going to be looking at 2-color leaders as being the meta. So let's go ahead. We'll start by talking through all the leaders, and then we're going to go through the character cards as well. But pretty much every single one is kind of good. So we start with Vivi. So this is a blue-red leader with 5 life, which immediately is a little, interesting, okay, 5k power. It's Alabaster Kingdom traded. This leader cannot attack, so we're seeing the same restriction here that we saw on Iceberg previously. I do think, in hindsight, they probably should have made Iceberg 6 life, because it is doing absolutely nothing. Activate main once per turn, pay 2, draw 1, and up to 1 of your characters gains a rush during this turn. So this is evidently very good, right? There are basically any card you can pull out of the top of your off the top of your head that has a strong when attack. You go, okay, well now it essentially costs 2 more, but I draw a card and it has rush, right? And you can go through the list, right? Like, for example, set 1 Hancock. Okay, cool. Now you're getting a draw and another draw, right? And you get to take advantage of it. You get a 6k swing. Oh, it's all lovely. There's so many, like Luffy from OP2, right? Like the pitch 2 and bounce. Well, now it's getting double attack, so you can just do this on the turn it comes in. Suddenly your 9-don turn is looking pretty spicy. Yeah, there's a whole host of really good cards that you can, obviously giving rush to is pretty damn good. So I'm not going to go through all of those now, but obviously this is a very powerful leader effect. I think this is the most obviously powerful of the little block we got. But I also do think that, your leader not being able to attack is a really significant detriment, right? Like, essentially you're paying 2 to just, like, yeah, okay, cool, so you combo with other cards, but, ultimately you're just getting the same level of aggression that every other deck kind of has as standard, just from having their leader, right? Like, there's functionally, I don't know that there's going to be a huge degree of difference, especially in the early game, between you just slapping, like, using those 2 dons and just kind of like slapping them onto your leader and swinging. Of course, I do understand that, like, in the late game this is going to be crazy, and in the early game this is going to be kind of dead, and in the mid game it's fine. So I will be interested to see the speed of the game and how that impacts the viability of Eevee. I definitely think this is a very interesting leader effect though, and I am very excited to see where we go. Next, what I am more excited for as a black supremacist is of course Rebecca. So if we slams over here, you can read Rebecca, 16 by the way, is another 5/5 leader that cannot attack. This is blue-black, so obviously I'm all here for it. And activate main once per turn. You pay 1. Look at if you have 6 cards or less in hand, look at the top 2 cards from your deck, reveal up to 1 Dressrosa, add it to your hand, and then trash the rest. So this is a bit of a weird one. If you hit it, then yeah, it's basically just better than Vivi in terms of plussing. If you whiff it, then it's like a mill 2, and like for 1, that's obviously not great, and you are and you're giving up, like, being able to attack for access to these 2 colors, so it's a little, but that being said, we do need to see exactly what level of Dressrosa support we get. But supplementing, black's power cards with a lot of what blue just has as standard is already really good. And we're going to go and we're going to see the black support pieces, the one card we've got so far for Dressrosa, and it's kind of broken. So I am very interested to see where this deck goes. Of course, This one's really going to suffer from a total lack of aggression, right? Like, you have no way of making your leader attack ever, so you are very, very board dependent. And if we are in a format where there is even the mildest amount of, easy removal for dudes, then I can see Rebecca not being particularly great. But obviously, we will need to wait and see. Way too early to be making any kind of conclusions about the format. All I'm giving you right now are my first impressions. Okay, then we've got Crocodile. So this is our third leader. So this is a 4-life 2-color leader. This is purple, yellow, and that's because it doesn't have the cannot attack restriction. On the opponent's turn, once per turn, when you return Don from your field to the Don deck through one of your effects, add 1 Don from your Don deck as active. So obviously this is actually a really nice effect, right? Because firstly, the fact it's purple, yellow tells me that there's going to be triggers, and of course there's a card we're going to talk about shortly that also confirms that interact with Don in some way that you're going to be minusing and doing some sort of shenanigans with that way. And if it's a Don -1, then you're essentially getting a full refund on it. It doesn't matter. Now, the other thing is this is letting you use all of Purple's really, really powerful events that have a Don -1 attachment to just sort of balance them out for free, right? Like, this is essentially going, okay, your Borrow Breath, it's free. Costs nothing, right? All you have to do is leave 1 untapped, and, you're now having to Don -, which means you can use it in the early game, which is incredible. Of course, Hell's Judgment as well, another one of those cards where you think, okay, but I can't really use it in the early game. The Don -1 feels quite bad. Well, now it's not an issue. So I do think this is a very powerful one. This is probably the weakest from what we have seen so far, but I'm going to caveat that by saying from the support pieces we have seen, unit-wise, they've all been nuts. So I definitely think we're going to get some very targeted support for this guy that's going to be absolutely insane. In fact, we've already seen one piece that is very much absolutely insane. So we'll keep going. But this is the least obviously exciting. So we have our first SR here in Monkey D. Luffy, Gear 4 Luffy. This card is so crazy. So this is a 7/7 black character without counter, so another top-end card for black. Dressrosa and Straw Hat Crew traded. So, if blue starts getting Straw Hat Crew searches, then that's going to be interesting. But, of course, we might see Dressrosa searches in black. It'll be interesting to see what we said. This character can attack active characters. So I want to stop right now and say that alone is quite powerful. On a card that is 7k base power, that really can give you access to some very powerful removal, right? Like, at the moment, one of the strongest ways you have of keeping something around is by not resting it, right? Well, now Luffy can show up and, kind of throw a wrench in that plan. But, of course, the second effect is the real reason this card is so crazy. Activate main once per turn. You may return 7 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Set this character to active. Then, during your next refresh phase, this character cannot be set to active. So, firstly, what I'll say with the restriction, you can just do the effect again to restand it, right? And it's also very likely that your opponent is just going to invest resources into dealing with this card, knowing that you can do that, in which case they're swinging into a 7k base, in which case you are going to be quite happy with that arrangement. But, of course, the bigger reason this card is unbelievably good is this is essentially like, the turn after you play it, either 16 or 17k double attack, which is going to close out pretty much any and every single game when your opponent's at 1 life if they haven't got blockers up. Of course, that is a relatively niche scenario, but the point stands that this is potentially unbelievable. You combine this with Lucci, and your levels of, pressure are ridiculous, right? Because you can very easily get, 2 11k swings out of this guy. That's 4 Don gone. Invest a couple more Dons into killing a unit, and then you've got, your Lucci swings that might be 9k each, very, very feasibly, and then you spend the 2 Don on your, on that, noodle guy, I forgot his name, to pop something. These are all very, very possible, super easy to do, and suddenly you got 4 attacks, and you're popping something. It'd be very, very difficult to deal with. I just think this is an insane aggressive tool. As good as Odin is, this is kind of, it feels like it might be better. I don't know. Odin is very, very strong. You're playing this for 7 every single time. It's so good. I really, really think this card is absolutely phenomenal. Though, of course, because it's 7, it is susceptible to every single, form of removal, pretty much, from blue. So that's something to be wary of. But yeah, I don't know. I think this card is nuts. Next, we have got our final one of these leaders, and this is low-key the one I've become most excited for from seeing Japanese YouTubers doing some gameplay with it, plus some of the new card reveals we've gotten. I think this guy's going to be really meta. So this is a purple-green leader, 4 life, 5k power, 7 Warlords of the Sea, and Don Quixote Pirates. Simple effect, at the end of your turn, untap 2 Don. So immediately when you see this, you go, okay, so the obvious, synergy here is you just get to always have your events up. You're no longer worried about ever needing to leave events up. You can just, play at your maximum Don capacity, and it's fine. You never need to worry. And that is honestly really good in and of itself, but especially when you consider the kind of events that you have access to in green and purple, right? Like, okay, well, you're talking about Hell's Judgments, right? You're talking about Punk Gibsons, right? These are very, very, very efficient events when you have the Don available, and you're always going to have the Don available. So they're essentially free, right? So they're really, really, really good. And they're only going to get better as we go and look through some of the support pieces that you have access to in this deck. And of course, we haven't even seen what 2-cost events they're just going to specifically make for this deck. So that's the other thing to bear in mind. So then we started getting our proper card reveals a couple days ago, because these were all a little while ago, and these are all just insane. So firstly, we got Missile Sunday. Finally, we're going to get an alt art of the best Straw Hat. The best Straw Hat. Who isn't Zoro or Usopp or Chopper. Anyway, so this is a 5/5 on play at up to one. It's a Baroque Works as well. So worth saying, Blurple Croc Copium might be better now. On play, add up to 1 rested Don to your cost area, and if you have 6 or more Don, draw a card. So you play this on curve, and you are drawing a card, replacing itself in hand, and you are ramping Don. Incredibly good already. But then, as a trigger, Don -2 to play the card. So essentially, right, that's a Don -1 to play the card that potentially draws you. And of course, this, in the context of purple-yellow Croc, is costing you nothing, right? Because you're refunding 1 Don from the leader effect, and then you're refunding another Don from the on-play effect of this, and you're more than likely drawing a card, unless it's essentially the first 2 turns of the game. Good lord, this card is amazing. I've never seen a more obvious 4 of in the decks it was made for, but obviously even outside of those decks, just a very generic on-play ramp draw. This might be good enough to just generically see play. I can very easily see you slapping this in Kaido, potentially taking over the Magellan spot, depending on how important being able to Don minus your opponent is. This is just a very, very good card. I'm a very big fan. Then we've got the big boy. We've got our green 10 cost. It looks like they're kind of going around. They're giving it to most of the colors at the moment. I think we're just waiting on blue. I think it might just be blue. We got it for red. No, red we got Shanks actually. So wait, Shanks 10 cost? Shanks a 9 cost. I think red and blue. Anyway, this card is nuts. This is Don Quixote Doflamingo, 10/10, 7 Warlords of the Sea, Don Quixote Pirates. On play, a total of up to 3 of your opponent's rested characters or leaders do not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. This is functionally the same as them going pop 3. Like, functionally, for all intents and purposes, this might as well read that. This is so good. When you're talking about a functional level at the point in the game you're playing this is like it's saying your leader is 20k, right? Like, there's lots of ways of, recontextualizing just how insane this is, but this is a truly insane effect, especially when you lump that in with the fact that you're going to be untapping 2 Dons, so you're going to have even more defense in addition to that. These things that you've just said they're not refreshing are going to stay rested, so you can play this and just swing into them, either rip cards out of your opponent's hand or just destroy part of your opponent's board, and then you get a whole extra turn to do that as well. They're not being able to attack their leader. God, this it's so good. It's so good. And we got a couple more pieces today that support this deck that are also insane. But I really cannot overstate just how strong this card is, to the point where I would say this is probably the best 10 cost in the game. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I think this is the best 10 cost in the game. I think it's between this and Big Mom. I think it's one of those two, and I think it might be this. It's so good. Then we have Nami. So this is clearly for the VV deck. So this is a 2 cost 3k. When attacking, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character with 6k or more power, this gains 3k during the turn, and then you put it at the bottom. So this becomes a 6k swing for free. And then, of course, you put 1 Don on it, then it's 7k. And obviously, that's very, very efficient. That's very, very good. 2 Dons on it for 5, and then suddenly it's an 8. It's very, very nice. The main thing, I don't think this card is particularly good at the moment. Of course, we will need to see if you're able to stack the deck. You can at the moment with things like Perona and 3 cost Doflamingo in VV, so that's possible. And of course, you can give this card Rush, so you can draw a card, swing with this, and then it's a 6k swing. It can potentially be quite nice. But the big thing to say on this is I like that this is seemingly encouraging you building a higher cost curve in red, which means you're moving a little bit away from Rush, which does hopefully mean that the pace of the game is going to slow down a little bit, because red is very much pushing like this fast, aggressive pace at OP02 and certainly in OP03, so that does make me hopeful. But of course, it's only one card. It could just be a random effect that they really doesn't mean anything, so we'll need to see. But certainly, I don't think this is particularly strong, but I think it's interesting. Okay, Diamante. This card is so good. This is a 5/6 with 1k counter, right? So firstly, green getting something with 1k counter at the 5 cost level, I feel like it's kind of rare. It's a blocker. Don 1 at the end of your turn. If you have 2 or more active Don, set this character as active. This is a 7 cost kid. For 2 cost less, only 1k power less, with 1k counter more. This is fucking good. Obviously it can get jet pistoled. Sure, it can get jet pistoled. But if they don't jet pistol it, you have got a 7k swing on your turn that's going to untap for free every single turn just by existing. And you play it out on 5. This is so good. Like, I really, really feel like this card is unbelievably strong. I don't know, maybe I'm overhyping it, but yeah, and like obviously, yeah, you're going to lose to pistol, you lose to, ace into Vista, you lose into a few of these minus 3k combos, but crucially, 7 cost kid kind of lost to most of the same stuff, right? Like, ultimately, you could still Otama pistol at 7 cost kid. Like, now with this, you just don't need the Otama, but you have so, like, but, I don't know that it's a huge issue. Maybe I'm coping a little bit, but I really do feel like this is very, very, very good. I don't know. I think this is another card the Doffy deck's just going to be like, yeah, I'll take a 7 cost kid for free. Now, I do feel like the moment I've been seeing it played has been very film-centric, so obviously it doesn't look like they're leaning into that, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I think this card's really, really good. Finally, we got Treble today. Let me go ahead and move this up so you can see Treble. So this is a 6/6, no counter, much more green. On play, K up to one of your opponent's arrested characters with a cost of 5 or less. And when your opponent attacks, pay 2, set up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less as arrested. So of course, you're always going to have the Don for this in Doflamingo. This card is strong, but when you're in these situations, always with just like, okay, yeah, but it doesn't have counter, I don't know. I will say, of course, this Doffy deck you're going to be playing a lot more events in, so this lack of counter might not be an issue. We'll need to test. Objectively, though, this is like very powerful, right? Like popping a 5 cost or lower is super good, and being able to just threaten the fact that I'm resting your dudes, like potentially forcing your opponent to attack in a slightly less than optimal way, can be very, very nice. And this with Pugging Gimson, you have a lot of ways to just really make your opponent feel bad about attacking with 4 costs or lower, that making those attacks up after the first attack, right? So like if they got multiple 4 cost lower units on the board, which newsflash, they probably do. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is really, really good. Overall, my impressions of OP04 so far are I'm hyped. I think that's the only real way I can say it. I'm super, super excited. I actually, a couple days ago, had sat down and checked what dual color leaders we're basically missing. So at the moment, the only 2 color combinations as of this video, basically, we're missing are red-purple, red-yellow, green-black, and blue-yellow. We have already had it confirmed that the triple supernova deck, ST10, that's coming out, I think in like August or something in Japan, is going to be red-purple. So red-yellow, green-black, and blue-yellow are the only 3 color combinations we just don't really know anything about. I'm going to guess that we're going to get Sabo as red-yellow, and Corazon as green-black in this set. I also think we're probably going to get Lore as like the manga card for black in set 4, leaving the only remaining color as blue-yellow, and I think we'll probably get that in set 5, and then we'll just have every combination. I guess we'll start looking at 3 color combinations at that point. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's happened really, really quick, and I'm really, really excited to get experimenting with all these 2 color leaders. I'm really excited to see where the meta is going in OP4. Obviously, OP3 is shaking up to be a very red-focused format, even after the Whitebeard hit. So I am interested to see if hopefully we can see a little bit more diversity. We can see green coming back in. Of course, green was very dominant in set 1 and set 2, but in set 3 it fell off very, very hard. So it'll be cool to see that coming in set 3. Maybe we can finally get some blue love and have blue actually be meta. And again, for purple as well, maybe they can actually do something that isn't called Kaido. So yeah, I've got high hopes for a lot of these. I think Doffy is definitely going to send red and purple into the very, very playable tier at the bare minimum. And I'm really, really excited to see what happens. But there we go. That's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you're interested in One Piece card game content, I make that very regularly. So you should subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be notified when I do. I hope to see you guys in those videos. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Check out my Patreon if you want to help support the channel. Another deck guide coming this week on that Patreon. So please do head on over to be notified when that goes up. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Cheers.